Welcome to a special edition of the Threshing Floor Podcast. Let us introduce you to the game of redemption and its community of players, one conversation at a time. From roundtable discussions to one-on-one interviews and everything in between, we will make you feel more connected to the game than ever before. So, thanks for joining, and let the conversation begin.
All right, guys, welcome into the Threshing Floor. Returning from a bit of a, would you say hiatus? That seems to fit since we don't have Mr. Hiatus on, but we do have a few other guests here. This is my first attempt at doing, or our first attempt, Jake is here, co-host, at doing a roundtable type discussion, similar to our first couple of episodes when we started the podcast, where we had multiple guests on sharing their point of view, their history with it, whatever the topic at hand is. This one happens to be about content creation for the game of Redemption. So we do have Mr. RobM Studios. How you doing, Rob?
What's up, everybody? I'm doing good, John. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. We also have the Type 1 two-player reigning champ from Nationals, Mr. BaboonyTim. How you doing, sir?
Sounds weird to say that, but I guess it's true. That's crazy. Hello, everybody.
You got to carry the burden of the title now until you lose it.
Heavy is the crown, as they say.
Heavy is the monkey that wears the crown.
So that also there is Jake, co-host I mentioned. And then we also have Jayden for Redemption with Jayden. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Getting over a little bit of a cold, so if I sound a little froggy, then you know why.
Okay. Froggy fresh, I got you. We did have plans to also include Mr. Hiatus, Tyler Stevens, but he wanted to watch the Jets lose to the Bills tonight, since we are recording this on Monday night, and they are featured on Monday Night Football for some awful reason. They got into prime time, but that is where we are. So we are here. We're going to talk about, creating content for the game of Redemption, because, we all in some way do that, and I think it's a source of enjoyment. It's a way to interact with the game and enjoy the game, but it's also something that it does take a lot of work, and I know that there's a lot of stuff that happens on the back end for a lot of the things that we create, and we want to share that with the community, but I also think it would be nice to have a healthy perspective of kind of what each person goes through to put that content out on a potentially weekly basis. So people like Jayden, not like us, because we disappear often. Rob is a little bit more spaced out with life and kids as well. Yep. And then you've got this monkey guy that just came on the scene and makes, I guess he doesn't do anything but make videos, it seems like, because it's like there's another one dropping every day. But I know that the process looks different for everyone, and then we have different motivations for why we do this stuff. And I thought it would be kind of a healthy thing to just get some perspective from each person that is involved in that. Not that this is an all-inclusive list. There's other people that make content, but I could only invite so many people. So I invited the ones that I thought were the main ones that people speak about when we're talking about redemption content. And that's not to knock anyone else. I'm just trying to give people the recognizable people. And then maybe as this grows, we can do it again down the road and include other people. But we do have I've got a few questions here that I want to ask. And it starts with really kind of the genesis of the point of, I'm going to be a redemption creator is why? What's the reason that you want to create content for the game of Redemption? And then what was the original goal or inspiration to get you started to make you actually create that first piece of content and get going? I think it just makes sense for us to go with our more established, I guess, longer tenured content creator. So that would be Jayden or Rob. So I'll just throw it up and one of you grab it and we'll start here. So what was your original inspiration for becoming a content creator?
So when I was getting back to the game about 3-4 years ago now, I was looking on the Land of Redemption and I saw hey, make some content and get a free card. And I was like, oh man, that'd be so cool to just get a free
So you're a sellout. You're a sellout. You just did
whatever it takes. Yeah.
But the funny thing is I made the content. I made the unboxing video for Lineage of Christ cards, and I uploaded it, and I never sent it for the longest time to Land of Redemption.
Nice.
I think I finally, like a year later, sent them stuff to get the free card. But yeah, the original intent was, yeah, let me just record this and I'll get like a free card. And, it was kind of like a one-off like thing. And then I just stuck with it. Derek, who was the owner of Your Turn Games at the time, was like, hey, have you ever thought about making more content? I was like, well, no, but I guess I could. And he's like, well, like, get some cards from Your Turn Games and
Of course, he threw a plug in.
And the relationship with Your Turn Games has, started then and has continued on. And, I was making unboxing videos to start, and that's where it all began for me.
Yeah, I think there are a multitude, I guess. I don't know, maybe multitude is too strong of words, but there were definitely a few reasons why, or I guess kind of things that led to me wanting to create videos for Redemption. I think part of it was just the fact that in 2020 we were kind of going through COVID and stuff, and so like I was just mostly just playing games online using Lackey, and not going out as much for tournaments and all that. So that was part of it. Like I was kind of thinking like, okay, there's got to be something else I could do to kind of promote the game a little more, especially if I'm just playing these games on Lackey. And also kind of in that, it was around that time that I kind of started getting interested also in Magic the Gathering. And so I had seen some content creators for... Shh, don't tell my mom. No.
Somehow I think she already knows. The Holy Spirit's told her.
Yeah. So I'd seen some like content creators for that, and also I think I'd played a little bit of Hearthstone too. Saw some for that, and I was like, this is pretty like easy in a sense of just like I'm already playing games. I just have to find some or use some software to record my screen or like record what I'm doing, and that's might as well, and then I can just post them to YouTube. So it was kind of a combination of those things of where I was already playing the games. We had, I think the Lackey Grand Prix had started around that time, or at least we'd at least I think started doing some online tournaments there, and maybe I think it was later maybe that the Lackey Grand Prix started, but like I was already active enough to where I was trying to get games in weekly, and I was like this is a cool thing that I can try to do, is just try to do a video every week, see how this feels. And so yeah, back in July of 2020 I think is when I posted my first video, a game against Chad France with a Throne deck shortly after Lineage of Christ came out, and using the new Throne of David after Samuel was banned. I think it was pretty much right after that, kind of like what does the new throne look like?
I think I remember something titled like that. I don't recall, but was that with like the Isaiah stuff, or did like the Isaiah protection get added on later, or was that in that video?
That was, I think, back when I think that was the first time that it could kind of, or at least I had realized, I think, that like Jehoshaphat could ban to Isaiah. And I actually, now that I think about it, I don't think I used the new throne. Was LOC even out at that point? I don't know. I think it was the old throne, but it was like the new throne as in like after Samuel was banned. People were wondering if throne was still good.
Yeah, because there was that little period of LOC is legal now, but before we did rotation, so you had a mix of things going on. But you did have to replace the Samuel. What about I guess our newest content creator, I guess by all accounts, started in, I want to say, what was it, around February, March, somewhere like that last year, and then cataloged your journey all the way to nationals. So that was, I believe you are the only person that I recall setting a goal with their first or initial batch of videos. Was like, I'm just going to see how this progresses towards nationals.
Wait, this is not last year, it's this year, right?
Okay.
That's crazy.
Season. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess we
Last
kind of
season.
know a little bit of your inspiration, but you want to talk about getting started with that and starting out that
Believe
journey?
it or not, I'm also a sellout. I went to landofredemption.com as I was trying to learn more about redemption. And I did see that little article there. It said if you make 2 videos, Chad will send you Son of God and you drew some promos, which looked amazing. And I was like, oh, I think that's where the idea first started. Because I'm not like the type of person who goes around with a camera and like blogs my life or anything like that. I'm like, and so it was a new thought and just asking, what would it look like? Because I guess I'm kind of camera shy. So I was like, okay, well, I can't turn the camera on. Well, maybe I can think of a persona. And so sure enough, I found some software. I found a monkey, and I thought it'd be a good idea to log my journey of wanting to learn redemption for this year. And it started out with just wanting to provide the type of videos that I wish were actually out there, that as I was learning about the game, it would help me get better at the game. So basically, I was taking people with me on that journey and trying to serve the community in that way. I also had some backgrounds in Magic, and in Magic, there's a overabundance of content, and I was very used to watching a bunch of Magic videos during my free time. And so when I looked at YouTube, I was like, oh man, Redemption was great, and this is great. I just wish there was more of this out there. And so that was also kind of my thought of just like diversifying what's out there. And Jayden's videos, they tend to be like on the hour plus. And so I was like, okay, for people, if they don't have as much time, maybe I could
throwing shade.
find like, it's not, no, it's just, we're just being, I just wanted to make sure there's something for everybody. As far as like, how much time people have to watch Redemption.
Jayden's videos also, and this is not shade, this is just being upfront with you. It almost assumes, like your videos a lot of times feel like they assume certain knowledge of the game already versus being, more streamlined. Like you've got the ones where like we're going to start with starter decks and things, but a lot of your stuff is geared towards I'm going to take this concept and try to build it into an entire deck and see if I can pull the thing off against an unsuspecting, E-man, where you try to play the cross or something. So it takes a certain base knowledge.
I'd say for Jayden's videos, it feels like a lot of them are like you have if you have an intermediate understanding of redemption, he's going to help you get to the next level. But if you're like at a casual level, you're like, what's going on here? And he does have those beginner videos, like you said. But I think you need to be at an intermediate level to actually like have a hunger to learn the game to get the next. But it's really good for that hitting the next level when you have that level of desire.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me of kind of another point of inspiration that I should have mentioned. I was actually like, a little bit of the like Magic content stuff from other games that I'd seen, but also from kind of the Redemption past, I guess, like the Redemption metagaming YouTube channel that Alex Oliar and
I hear it's like Beetlejuice. If you say Alex's name 3 times, he'll disagree with you.
Well, maybe on that next podcast that you were talking about, if he starts putting out more videos again,
maybe.
But that was
take a few more car rides, big dog.
That was another thing that I kind of drew inspiration from as far as like specific to Redemption. It was kind of making content that was geared toward kind of like higher level strategy, where you do already kind of know a little bit about the game. Because like my first videos, I didn't even go over the decks that I was playing beforehand, and I actually just checked. I was playing the new LOC Throne in that deck. I had to go and resolve that in my brain.
See, that's the cool thing about doing a round table while other people are talking. You can go and
I can do my research on my own stuff. So yeah, that was another thing that I kind of wanted to. I wasn't necessarily aiming to make like beginner videos. It was more for players like me, because I was thinking like, this is the kind of content that I like to watch for these other games that I have kind of dabbled into. It's like, I don't need the the basics or kind of the basic the fundamental rules covered as I'm watching. I just want to see like the kind of fun strategies and fun combos that people come up with and stuff.
There's definitely a room for that, but I think it's also kind of the contrasting styles of that, and then on the other end of that, maybe targeting more of that beginner or someone coming to the game from other card backgrounds, seeing that journey get cataloged through. And then I think you winning nationals, Tim, is just kind of like the icing on the cake, because now, like, if you had gone to nationals and not done well, maybe some of that, even though the groundwork was there no matter what, I think it instantly gives you more validity to be like, this culminated in me winning nationals. Just kind of puts a nice bow on it for someone to be like, oh, there's a reason I should listen to this guy. He actually won, versus who is this guy that doesn't know Redemption either?
Or the guy that didn't play Redemption at all at Nationals this year.
Yeah. Why would we listen to that guy?
One of your questions on the little PDF here is, how has your content grown or evolved over time? And that's like a great talking point, because at the beginning it was very beginner focused, and it was very like, let's look at all these cards. I've never seen these cards before. I'm pretending that you haven't seen these cards either. And now it's more it's come to the point where I have some sort of feeling of mastery over the game, and now I'm kind of talking more at the high level point. It's kind of hard to go back to that. Let me teach you the first steps when you've kind of walked a bunch. So that's the way my content has evolved, has definitely become more like niche and focus on the higher and deeper aspects of it.
Yeah. What the next nativity thing is kind of, for every video I feel like just a little bit deeper.
How do we prove nativity is better than everything?
Oh goodness.
Which, I mean, you just play nativity and it does it for you, right?
I mean, it kind of does. You can go to a tournament and just play the national winners deck and win a district tournament. So, or
you buy it off of your turn games.
Or you can buy it off your turn games.
Shout out champion decks. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that was kind of piggybacking off of that. Like, I remember when Tim first started making videos, like putting them out every day, and I was like, oh, this is cool. This another content creator, and he's covering some things that I don't really talk about. So I was appreciative of that, where like there was, I mean, not that I really would care if we were competing, I guess, but he's kind of covering the more beginner level things, and kind of similar with Rob. Like, Rob was doing a lot of more like tutorial videos, box openings, that kind of stuff. So it wasn't, it was kind of filling a different area, I guess, or space for content creation. And admittedly, during kind of those first couple months or so, as Tim was putting out these videos, I probably watched maybe 15-20% of them, but now the videos that Tim puts out, I watch a lot more of them, because they're kind of getting more aligned with the kind of content that I liked to consume from other games, or kind of like seeing the gameplay and kind of the high level strategy. So I think definitely have evolved over time.
Okay.
Still a monkey, but evolved.
So Tim pushed us towards the second question here, but I want to make sure that I talk a little bit about getting the podcast started. But also, Jay, I know that you've put out a lot of it's like raw gameplay footage or whatever that you just want people to be able to see of games, but then also you've taken on a role as co-host with the podcast. And I think that the first little run before nationals, once we got you in, was pretty successful for the podcast, and I think you're well suited for it. But maybe that's kind of a content creation role that kind of found you versus you finding it. But what's it been like for you getting started with doing that, and deciding to put out even just those raw gameplay? It's all Lucky Grand Prix games for you, but
I actually had some other stuff too in there. I did some shorts explaining the rules and some other. I explained the first turn win deck. And honestly, I had a Magic background in this. I actually was hired by a website to do Magic articles, video articles, back in the day, and I did them in exchange for tickets on Magic the Gathering Online. So I actually, I was able to sell my account for,
too.
yeah. But like I'm like I enjoy teaching, so like being paid to teach and being paid to share like what I've learned and my opinion, that's always something I've enjoyed. For Redemption, like I think I started making the videos and putting them out there, and whenever you put a lot of work into a video and you don't get a lot of interaction and like 3 likes, I'm like, oh, okay. So like honestly, I was like, I put a lot of work into these videos and it feels like only a few people liked them. So I was like, I'm just gonna go to the low effort, like posting raw footage. Like then I'm not gonna be like, oh, I spent so much time on this and no one watched. Like if no one watches, whatever. Like it's just up there. Like I didn't do anything except hit record and upload. Like I don't have to worry about it. But I know it's easy to get down on myself whenever I feel like I really invest in something and I'm like, no one cares. Come on. So, but being with the podcast has been great. Like I get to like jump onto your bandwagon of success. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, we're definitely glad to have you here. I think the whole community has responded well to you taking over. Not to throw any shade at Brad, but being able to consistently have someone that's able to actually get the games in and play and be more in tune with the actual game has really benefited when we do actually record. Not that we've been recording lately here as I go through this busy season with work. But as far as getting the podcast started, I think I never in a million years would have figured that I would be doing a podcast, because to this day, when you go and call my phone and you get sent to voicemail, it's the automated recording, because I hate the sound of my own voice so much. I've never recorded a, hey, you've reached John, leave a message, or don't, any of those messages.
You call yourself often?
No, well, you'd be surprised. But
that's awesome.
Most people just text somebody randomly like, hey, I needed to save this note. I just call myself and leave a voicemail. But I remember when I first got into the game and I found out that Nationals had just happened in 2019 when I came to the game. So this was like late August, like literally Nationals had just happened. And so it was just ill timing there. But I talked with Jay and Jeremy Chambers. They were in Alabama, both of them at the time. Jay since moved to Michigan, but I talked to them about the game, and I was trying to pull as much information out of them about the game because I did enough research because I wanted to. I liked the idea of the game from the start, so then I started investing time into researching. There wasn't a lot of content that was relevant and up to date. There was like a few years ago, someone made some videos or there was some articles on Land of Redemption, but nothing was like current to the moment. Like 2019, you might get an article or two here or there, but not a lot of it. And then shortly after that, John and Josiah started Top Cut Savvy, which made it, I believe it was 5 episodes, maybe 6. But the idea of, okay, we're going to try to talk to you about how to take the next step and push towards making Top Cut. And I was really bought into the idea of it. I thought they were pretty good bouncing off of each other. And then, 2, maybe 3 hours of content total. And then that thing just went away and there was nothing there. I know that it was talked about a couple of times, like Jay mentioned a podcast or someone else mentioned, and we had rotation happen, and I knew that there was a significant change in Redemption, especially for people that were going to come to the game because they were going to come and encounter the more accessible older cards first, and then they were going to realize, oh, those cards aren't as valuable as the new cards, and there was a lot of transition that I thought would leave a new player kind of on the outside a little bit. And so I thought having a podcast at the time, it was just a perfect time to put some kind of content out. And I remembered the way that I enjoyed Top Cut Savvy, being able to hear that while I'm driving and not necessarily able to play with the cards, because there's so many times I think about Redemption when I don't have the cards. So it just led to inspiration for the podcast so that it's more of a more accessible way to, like, even with you guys doing the videos, I watch pretty much all of your videos eventually, but I will start them. Something pulls me away. It's hard to devote both my mind visually, like watching them and listening to them. And it's easier for me to just listen to something while doing another task. So I thought there was value in a podcast. didn't think I would be very good at it. I tried to push Jay to finally do a podcast at some point. And he was like, dude, why don't you just do it? And he hit me with this like, oh, that is kind of annoying if I'm trying to tell someone else they should do something, but I'm not willing to do something. And so I figured I would give it a try, but I'm the type of person that I don't, if I'm going to do something, I don't shortchange it at all. Like I give it I want to like go all in, even to sometimes to my detriment, because I'll invest heavily and then realize it's not something that I am going to be able to do or something like that. So I ended up buying it was I think in total like $1,200 worth of gear, podcasts, soundboard, microphones, all kinds of stuff, paid for the monthly service. Anyway, fast forward to now, and I think everything that I did ended up being worth it. And I think even though we've had lapses in recording and things, I think you guys making the video content primarily, Land of Redemption kind of being a hub for everything, but also having a presence in the podcasting sphere really kind of rounds out and gives a full plate of options for content. Like you can take your content however you want it nowadays with Redemption. And I think that's important for us to kind of hit it from all of those angles. So I'm just glad that it ended up working out, because telling my wife I needed to sell this equipment for less than I paid for it 3 months down the road would have been a bad thing. You guys probably would not see me anymore.
That'd be
I mean, on the bright side, spending $1,200 on equipment is a good motivator to be like, oh, I spent this money on this equipment.
Oh, yeah.
I better use it.
I got to make sure it works. And, every year, it's like Nationals is coming up. I got to find a way to spend like $400-$600 on more stuff.
Exactly.
So I couldn't even fathom to tell you how much I've invested into the podcast at this point, even with those fancy sound clips that we added when we kind of rebranded the podcast a little bit when Jake came on board. Those should have been much cheaper than they were. They weren't very cheap. So, I mean, I guess it's just continuing to spend money continues to force me to, at some level, not give up on it. So I'm like the John Cena podcast, never give up. Woo!
Whatever it
He's
takes.
in too deep now.
Yeah, you can't see me. Your time's up, Jayden. My time's now.
Thing is that I can't say that I've spent anywhere close to $1,200 on the equipment that I've got for my channel, but I think the entry level for YouTube is probably a little easier than podcasting. Surprisingly, webcams are pretty cheap.
Also, you already had the computer built as well, so
Well, that's true.
yeah, I had no computer, so I ended up having to buy a MacBook. I guess I didn't have to buy a MacBook, but I wanted a good computer, so I didn't buy a Windows. So I had to buy a MacBook to get a good computer.
I know some of us are on time constraints, so I'm not gonna dive into that rabbit hole.
Okay, so we'll pivot.
I can open that can of beans.
We'll work on the second question here that Tim already kind of answered, but I am a little disappointed that Tim didn't talk about the way that his content has grown and changed over time, to the fact this dude is now the owner. He's less than a year in, and he's already the owner of Land of Redemption and a Type 1 champion, and he's still making videos and things, including crazy metric stats and things to look at for the meta for last year. So, I mean, your content has grown in other avenues as well. It's not even just the videos now. Now you have a presence with Land of Redemption. So that's interesting. Yeah. And how are you liking taking on that role?
It's a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. When Chad asked me to be an editor of Land of Redemption, it was surely an honor to do that and contribute and help grab everybody's content and put it in one place and make Land of Redemption kind of the landing spot for online content. And then when Chad was going through and realizing he wanted to dedicate more time to his family, I was kind of like the next in line. And so all of a sudden, the keys to the Land of Redemption kingdom are in the lab. And now I get to ask the question of where do we go from here? And so I get to think about articles or videos, and it's just, there's a lot to think about, and the future is exciting for sure. Something that Reth and I have been kicking around is like, what if there was a place where people could go to upload their deck list for tournaments? That way we could host the deck list on Land of Redemption for tournaments, but also have like an easy way instead of like handwriting all the deck lists out somewhere. So maybe like stuff like that. Now that we have like a website, I don't know, it could open up a lot of different things.
Yeah. So you're saying like upload them there and have that suffice as like the legal requirement or whatever for sanctioned tournaments. Nice. Yeah, that would be cool. Some kind of like hub or something I think is essential for maybe like a future step of growth for the game. And that's something that like Cactus Official puts out, you know, like whether it's a full scale redemption.com webpage or whatever. But in lieu of that, I think Land of Redemption has the potential to be a really good, it's limited just on the fact that like it's not a Cactus Official thing. But I think finding ways to more incorporate that into the community will help drive people to there where it's a hub for all of the content that, you know, we've all been talking about already. So that's kind of a cool point of trying to find a way to bring it into the tournament scene and be a more important factor, I guess.
Yeah, and I appreciated when Tim hopped on too, because, you know, not to, no offense to Chad or Charles, but, you know, when I sent him the information for the videos before they, you know, as basically the night before they were going live, like as soon as I had a link available for the video, and then, you know, for Chad and Charles, they're busy guys. It usually took, you know, maybe a few days to put the article up on Land of Redemption, which I didn't really mind. Like, you know, the video was kind of the main thing anyway. But then as soon as Tim took over, then it was just like, oh yeah, your video's ready. Boom, it's on Land of Redemption. So it was cool too.
Back in the day, I remember there was another poor soul that had to upload your videos.
Yeah, that's true.
How would you rate his speed? Was it better than Chad and Charles?
Well,
as long as I'm not the worst, I'm okay.
I was looking through the archives of Land of Redemption. John Hendricks used to be an editor.
That's
very interesting
I
information.
technically can still sign into it.
That's
I'm pretty
amazing.
sure.
Yeah, and couldn't help but notice that you didn't mention that on your content growing or evolving over time.
Who? Me?
You, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't intentionally head on hit the question number 2. I was trying to mostly hammer out a good thorough question number 1 answer.
Oh, okay. All right.
But yeah, maybe I was going to skip question number 2. Who knows? So Rob, what about you? You started out with making the LOC box opening. Then you said Derek, Your Turn Games at the time. That's now owned by our friend Andy Fish. Andy and Kelsey, his wife. But Derek pushed you to, hey, maybe make some more content. And was that the driving force of you progressing and moving towards gameplay videos, or was that just something that you did naturally as you just wanted to make more content?
Yeah, I just, I started out with the unboxing videos, and then I was like, what else can I do? Like, let's talk about the different types of cards. Let's make a video about how to play Redemption. Like, and I think a lot of the evolution of my channel was more like technical. Like the first 6 to 8 months, I literally did all my recording and editing on my iPhone. I literally, one of my most popular videos still, because, it's how to play Redemption. I literally have a ledge in my downstairs because it's like a raised ranch. So it's like a ledge that you can set stuff on. I literally set my phone on the ledge, put books on it, put stuff to like hold it down, and that was my camera stand, quote unquote. And then
That's
I put
awesome.
on my table. So if you watch that video, because it's got like almost 4,000 views, it's literally made with my phone just propped up on this ledge with weighted down. And then I, got the cards out and did like a mock gameplay of, okay, you draw your cards, do this.
A little less than $1,200 there.
Yeah. So I, spent nothing on recording Redemption videos on YouTube at first. And, since I've, gotten a Yeti mic, I got the webcam. I went from the one camera view to, let's make an unboxing video with 2 cameras. So now you can see my reaction to opening the big gold border cards, the excitement. And I have wireless Rode mics coming to hopefully test out in future live streams. Like maybe we can get better audio of the participants to, get more, better quality of sound for, what's going on in the games. And so I've definitely progressed a lot in that sense, like going from, using random things to hold my cameras to make videos to where we are now. I mean, I have another one where I literally set my phone up in the light fixture above my dining room table so my son and I could record a Type 1 gameplay video where I like kind of explained how you played as we went. And, if you bumped the room too much, the chandelier or whatever would sway. So, yeah, man, like you work with what you got. And then, definitely, I think each year at Nationals I've, did live streams for 4 years now, which is just exciting to be a part of that. I love doing that each year. And, went from the first year in Texas to where I just had the straight up stand and I had the phone and it was live streamed through Twitch because I didn't have enough followers yet on YouTube to use YouTube. And then I had to export all of that footage from Twitch to YouTube and then upload it. That was a hassle to the following year where I think I ended up using somebody else's laptop.
Yeah, I remember that.
Jared's laptop, him's laptop. And then that got me started on the whole OBS, starting to use that after that. Finally downloaded that onto my laptop and, just each year progressed more, got the Yeti mic for this most recent year, brought my lights and, a little bit here and there. So I think a lot of my evolution has been like maybe just trying to make it more crisp, more professional, more quality product for the Redemption community.
I will tell you that year in Texas when we ended up for the second live stream using Jared Strauss's laptop. So Jayden got there early and started putting his stuff together. He's getting it all ready. Then we're getting ready to try to figure out and set up the other live stream. And Rob has said that he could help with doing a live stream. So I asked him, I was like, so where's your stuff to record? And he just looks and he holds his phone. He's like, dude, I just used my phone. And I was like, all right, well, I don't know how to help you with that, dog. I had no idea of how it works with using your phone. And I guess, I don't know if you even had a stand or whatever where we were going to try to put it up. But luckily we were able to use a computer, which felt a little bit more natural for me. But it is kind of cool to see that content, or at least the interest in content creation for you. And I mean, I guess for all of us, you've stuck with it enough to where you've wanted to invest into making it better quality and things as it moves forward, which I think is kind of important because there's only so much you can do with limited resources. It's kind of like the game's all built about accumulating resources. Well, if you don't accumulate resources for content creation as well, you just, at a certain point, people don't want to watch bad video or listen to bad audio or whatever. So it's nice to see people actually getting to make their content and grow with that. I guess that's another way to interact with this hobby, or is content creation a hobby on its own? I'm not real sure, but wherever you fit on that, being able to grow with it as your content grows is kind of cool.
Yep. Still working on the live stream being live on my end. So
hey, I wasn't gonna throw any jabs, but if you get in the ring, I'll give you a haymaker. That was rough.
Where are those other Top Cut videos, Rob? Sorry, guys.
I was a little bit sad I didn't get to go back and watch my game against Jeremy.
Sorry.
Tell you what. Next time he's just got to buy a better bandwidth or something. Something's going on there.
I just needed to bring a better laptop, and then I brought it to the most recent tournament we had in Moravia, and I could not get it to connect right, so that's why I ended up just recording it. So I got to mess around and try to get the live stream working on my better laptop, because then I think it would have buffered quicker and actually worked. So Till next time.
As far as like how our content has grown, obviously, I think it's kind of pretty well known if anyone's listening to this podcast that the podcast has grown over the years, but kind of the biggest part of that has been, picking up Brad as co-host and then swapping Brad as co-host with Jake here. And then that transition also including kind of redesigning the podcast from the graphic look to the intro music, our intro with the voiceover guy that has kind of been used to segue into different segments and then having segmented content within each podcast. So you might not like the whole episode, but hopefully there's some kind of little small amount of it that kind of piques your interest. You can kind of skip around to that. I did try to do the chapter markers to make that easier with that, but for some reason I would put this time on it and it would be exactly this time. But when I uploaded it, moved it by 30 seconds somehow. So they weren't accurate. So I didn't do that. But all of that's kind of, I guess, available through the episodes and kind of see how it's grown. I know that first two episodes, or the first two episodes that we did were a roundtable type discussion about the fact that rotation happened in the game after it had been, deliberated and talked about for years. And then also the reserve rule changing. And so we had a lot of strong opinions on that within the community. So I thought it would be good to do, but the audio was not great from all sides. Not going to throw Jay under the bus, but Jay, I'm riding over you with the bus here. His audio was terrible. I wasn't good at editing because I had never edited any audio like that. So I think we've just grown from that point. So if you want to see a full contrast, hopefully this is edited better and you can just compare this episode to the first two and kind of see where kind of some of that has grown and evolved over time. But let's move into some of these other questions because I do know that we are working within a certain window of time, and we have used a good bit of that. So what does it take for you guys to take your content from here's an idea I want to do to actually here's a published work that people can go and watch or read if it's an article with Land of Redemption or something? However you put that together, what is the process like to take that idea?
So I actually have like a little thing in my phone of redemption ideas, and they're all whenever I'm just kind of thinking or walking through the day. This used to really happen a lot more earlier on, but I would just write these ideas down, kind of like a brainstorming session, and then I'd execute. I'd take a look at the ideas and I'd look at each one, and I'd ask myself, what is the most engaging concept for me, or does this idea require me to reach out to somebody? So if so, I'd reach out to them, get some feedback about, hey, would you be interested in doing a video like this? Or if it's a more technical one, then I have to think about how am I going to make this work behind the scenes. And for a lot of the videos, especially these days, they're more like gameplay videos. So if I'm just scheduled to play a tournament match a week, then it's pretty easy. Like the video kind of makes itself, right?
You lucky guys.
But
you lucky guys.
I think I think the deck tech ones are fun because you have to find a deck and then you have to sit down and think about it. And then if I'm feeling extra and want to put extra effort into it, I make a little slideshow and kind of break down each card. So it really depends.
I do think, since you mentioned deck tech videos, I think those are some of my favorite that you've done because they're a little bit more engaging as far as not to knock your stuff, Jayden, laying out the thing and talking about the deck as a whole, while you're looking at the whole thing versus a slideshow of here's 2 or 3 cards at a time and we talk about them and their role within the deck feels a little bit more engaging. And for people that aren't as familiar with the cards in a real in-depth way, that maybe have only brushed up against this card a couple of times in tournament play or something, it kind of gives you a little bit less, less complex thing to focus on. So it's this small part of the big deck instead of here's the whole deck and then you're talking about a small part.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you there.
Then the one that you guys did after Nationals that you guys talked about the nativity decks that finished first and second place and went really in depth with those. That's probably my favorite video that you've done because it takes somebody that doesn't understand why nativity was good, tells them exactly why it was good, and how to play it. And it's like no holds barred. This is exactly how you play this deck. It's like, here's a cheat code. Play the deck. I really enjoyed that.
Tim's a
one,
mastermind. That video is amazing. I was like, that's really cool. It was awesome.
That was a really good video. I was taking notes. I was like, okay, I'm building this deck. I'm going to play this deck.
But then you forgot you don't play at Nationals.
Yeah. It was cool to see you, Rob. It felt like you were inspired a little bit. But yeah, that video is kind of like the masterclass video. It was really fun to make, especially having Jake on there. It was fun to have another voice that wasn't mine. Because we created that deck together.
Yes.
I know I get a lot of credit for that deck, but Jake was the one who actually built it, like the beginning of it.
Congratulations, Jake. You got a shout out. He got a title, though.
Gives some credibility to the podcast.
Yeah,
You
credibility
get
to the
second,
podcast.
yeah.
What about you, Jayden? I mean, a lot of yours is gameplay based as well, but then you do the intro to where you go back and show the deck and talk about it in depth.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of similar to Tim, I've got a little note on my phone that has all these different ideas and stuff that I've thought of, and I've got some of them checked off. Some of them are old, like one of them is KOT with wings. Basically, it was an idea of putting Wings of Calamity on King of Tyrus to make it CBN protected from OT heroes and dominance, and never got there before rotation came, and so I could probably go and clean that one up. But got a bunch of other ideas and stuff that if I'm ever looking for inspiration, then I will go back there and see if I come up with something. Then I will put the deck together. Usually that happens shortly before I'm playing the game. It would be a little better if I had some more time to try things out and have a more polished or refined deck to show. And sometimes I end up with videos like that, or maybe I'll do another kind of follow-up video later where I play another game, but after I made some changes and explain that. But once I have the idea of the deck, record the game, oftentimes now it's just a Lackey Grand Prix game. And then I've got on Wednesday nights, I've got youth group until about I get home at like 9 o'clock. I eat something, then get down to editing, or I guess recording the intro and then editing. And that's sometimes results in a late night, which is in part why my videos are not always typically not edited down to a more compact version, kind of like some of Tim's games where it's just a quick voiceover and kind of skipping through. And I think that's okay, or like I like the difference in that, having that available, having kind of some of the back and forth and some of the thought. Occasionally that's nice, but that's pretty much the process with taking my idea. So it's not like a too big of a commitment. It is difficult sometimes to make sure I have a new deck every week, and so sometimes I will start from somebody, like a deck that somebody else has posted. Like for this week, I was gonna do like a green Soulhide deck, and then I forgot that Tyler had actually posted a deck list with green and Moabites, and until today when he posted the video, and
He
I was like,
snaked you, didn't he?
well, kind of, but I'm glad he posted the video so that I was actually aware of it, and like, okay, I can have this to kind of start with, and then I ended up changing it quite a bit. I mean, I didn't use the same defense, and it's a little, the offense is adjusted a bit as well. But sometimes I'll kind of start from a shell and then get there. But I would say that's kind of the more difficult part of the process, is coming up with a new deck from a lot of times from scratch each week. But that's where the ideas are there, and I can think about it at work or wherever, and kind of take some notes, and comes together in the end.
What about you, Mr. RobM Studios?
All right, me. Gosh, yeah. I mean, like live streams. Can we just do all live stream videos? Because that's just so easy. Just
right. Sometimes we got to do that too.
Or just gameplay videos. Those are pretty straightforward. For like if I ever get to be part of my own Zoom Discord invitational, but life keeps me busy. I've started so many videos, I want to say, in the spring. Like, I was on Daniel and Persians for like all of, I did some gameplay videos with my son with those. And I had like this big idea. I'm going to do this deck tech video. Like, some of you guys know I did a little stint as a Lurkana YouTuber. And that didn't really go anywhere. But I made like a video on that I literally spent 6 or 8 hours editing a deck tech video for, and just the, with the card images and everything. And I was like, I'm going to do that for Redemption. And that video did not get very far. I got, the intro recorded. I got the Your Turn Games plugin recorded. And that's probably the most you guys will see of that video, because I used that Your Turn Game snippet for other videos. But, like, I've made lists of ideas. I come up with ideas in my head, and just the execution of them is sometimes hit and miss. But, so many different ideas. And one of the things I kind of maybe got a little bit of an idea from the podcast was like how you guys do the top 10. I was like, well, what about like the actual like Redemption national ranking system? Let's do some videos about that. So right before nationals, I put some videos out about that, and I try to keep up with that. But the tough part about that is it's not, it's kind of hit and miss how much it's updated on the official website. So we're still waiting to see where anybody is even ranking so far.
That's why we have power rankings.
I won a district. Like, I could be on the rankings. Like, let me see where my points are. It's not showing up yet. So I'm like, I think maybe I'll try to at least do like 4 a year on that or something. I don't know. Maybe more as we get closer to the bigger tournament season. But, ideas like that. And that's like a smaller video that's easier to digest, because it's like 5 minutes, top 5 and 5, like real quick.
I did like those, I will say, because like it was a lot easier than, I could just put that on while I was at work, listen to it, and not have to actually go through all the clicking and stuff. So you save me
you
some
don't have to
time
watch
there.
it, you can just listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I have one more that's supposed to come out with the final rankings for last year. It's just a matter of sitting down and finishing the audio.
Yeah.
Time restraints with all the children I have. So
you mentioning the fact that it's hit or miss with that, and that's one of those things that would be really cool. Not to talk about future things that we really hope for the game, but having some kind of portal to where you can upload deck lists for a live tournament that's happening at a Cactus official thing, so that it auto uploads that, but also being able to upload your results in real time and have them update would be an awesome step for Redemption as far as keeping up with that stuff. But that's kind of the inspiration for the power rankings, is because it's so hit or miss, whether like you can win a state tournament and take 2 weeks before it's recognized on there, or even longer sometimes. So you can't really get a snapshot of where we currently stand. So it's really hard to gauge where people are ranked. So that's where like power rankings kind of give you an idea of like the better players right now in the moment based on tournament results that are shared, like with us, so that we can review on the podcast and things. But anything you want to chime in with here, Jake, before I answer a little bit?
No, I'd love to hear what you say.
Okay. So I think you guys have kind of a strong benefit of having actual gameplay be the basis of some of your content. But as far as coming up with a podcast content, and that's kind of where like I am so thankful that we pivoted and started doing the segmented, I guess, approach to podcasting, so that we can kind of have different easier things to build little segments and then put them together to make the full episode, instead of sitting down feeling the pressure of, okay, I have an idea I want to talk about, but how do I make this topic, fill in an entire episode or whatever, when it was just basically we're going to give you the recent news and things, but then we're going to talk about whatever this topic is. It felt like the topic had to be good enough to stand on its own for a conversation that people would be interested in. So it wasn't like, hey, we just want to talk about this, because this might not be engaging enough for us to have like a 30 to 45 minute conversation with. to fill in the back half of the episode, especially on a down week when there's not a lot of new content and things to mention. There's no tournament results, stuff like that. And I think that really kind of forces, it puts a little bit of pressure that I think, I won't say that you guys don't feel pressure, but I'm thankful that you guys get the ability to use actual gameplay as kind of the basis for some of your content, because there's been some weeks where like, okay, podcast needs to be recorded. I have nothing to talk about that I think is a good enough topic. And then not only that, it was like, since we were guest based, it was like, I also have to arrange and have someone willing to come on and talk about this. So they need to know enough about whatever this topic is. So it just created a lot of pressure. And some of that pressure kind of makes it easier on some of those weeks to where like life's busy or whatever. I'm not really going to be able to set aside a lot of preparation time to, I guess, at least mentally prepare like talking notes and things on a topic. Just easier to, hey, maybe we didn't have an episode this week, and then, all of that. And I think that right now with the segmented approach, it's so much easier to do that, because even if we don't have anything to talk about, like we can have an entire episode and not have one topic that we brought to the table. We're here to review things that have happened. We've got tournament results. We'll give you the power rankings based on tournament results if there's enough of that to justify. Then we've got, if new cards came out, we've got the Ager the Creator section to where you can just grab up any of the card designs that you've worked on in the past. Deck of the week, there's people sharing decks, so we can just take that. We don't really have to come up with that on our own. The mailbag segment. So a lot of that, and I will say it kind of takes away the option to sometimes maybe we have a little bit of a topic, but we just kind of fit that in there randomly wherever. But I think and that's another, back to that second question of how things have happened and transitioned over the course of your time creating content. I think that the segments make it so much easier for us. And I know that sounds weird because right now it's segmented content, but we're not recording. But that's because I've been working 70+ hour weeks. So people's going to have to forgive me until November 2nd and 3rd. We're doing that weekend. So from that Wednesday to that Sunday, we're working and doing a full scale inventory count at the warehouse. And then after that, I am free. The shackles are no longer on me. I will be able to.
Knock on wood, maybe, or if you got some nearby, I would just.
I will be able to hopefully jump right back into our bi-weekly recordings. Hopefully that works with Jake's schedule these days. I haven't really talked to him that much about scheduling, but that's kind of the break point for me to where it hopefully opens up and relaxes, and we can get back to that. But just the segmented thing, I think, makes it easier for us to take not even an idea. Like you guys have your list of ideas. I have things that I want to talk about, but I can kind of fit them in wherever, but not having the pressure of having to have that list of ideas and then find a guest that matches that idea makes it so much better as far as like the preparation for it.
And we just generate enough content just by talking to each other randomly, like, oh, what about this? What about this? Just really cool. Yeah, and for me, I've been stressed with, I got a lot of work too recently, but like I'm getting back into the redemption swing, doing some RobM tournament. It's going to be awesome. So I'm going to be back in the redemption swing soon too.
Nice. So all of it's coming together for us. So what would you guys say is the favorite piece of content that you've created since you've been doing redemption specific content? And I'll just let you guys decide who's answering that one first. Who wants to grab it? It's popcorn.
So I guess I'll just go. One of my favorite ones.
It's Lorcana, isn't it? It's the Lorcana video.
I haven't played that even longer than Redemption. So it's the Redemption Historia series. I think it's like 2 or 3 videos I made about like the history of Redemption. One of those being the national tournament history. I think I broke it up into a couple different videos, but the neat thing about it was like it involved some research. Like I had to go back and be like, okay, what were the cards for first, second, and third? Like, I had to go on to Covenant Games, get the information about the events, about, where each tournament took place. And it was a lot of fun. Like, it was a different piece of content. It was not your typical unboxing or gameplay. It was just, something completely different about like where Redemption was and you know, it was fun to do. I really enjoyed that. Kind of brings back to like some of my real early videos where I'm just like recording like shots of like all these old scroll cards. Like here's the Warriors set. Like this is what the Warriors are about. Like here's like all these neat little cards. So it's just kind of neat to like kind of go back and reminisce about, you know, the past, I guess. So that's kind of one of my favorite series, even though there's not too many videos of it, but just taking the time to do research and reflect and be like, okay, let me make sure I got the right cards for each of these events. So check it out.
I guess I would say, I mean, like, part of why I like Redemption and games in general, and just my like general building or like deck building, I don't know, mind, I guess, or like I like problem solving or, you know, doing like puzzles, that kind of stuff. And so, you know, deck building was kind of a big part of why I like Redemption, at least, you know, now. You know, starting out, you know, when I was younger, it wasn't necessarily that way, but, you know, now I like to build decks and particularly find combos and that kind of stuff. Like I really like it when there's, you know, synergy, things working together, and just, you know, things that you might not expect. And so pretty much any video where I have found and get to show like some kind of combo, or, you know, especially if it's, you know, very strong or just very cool, even if it, you know, doesn't necessarily win me the game, it just like it feels good, you know. Like I think, you know, one of them, like one of the top ones, I believe I was playing Brad, and I didn't think about this ahead of time, but I should have. But where it was the taking your opponent's dominance deck.
I heard about this ad nauseum for about a 2-week period. You had that boy soul searching.
That's
where
awesome.
I had you know, made this deck that was designed around taking your opponent's dominance with Assyrian invaders, I think. So where I'm trying to put them in their reserve and then make sure they don't have any fortresses or whatever it is that you can instead the ability with, and or as artifacts. That's right, yeah. Getting rid of their artifacts so they can't instead when I take a card from their reserve. So I was able to take his second coming and use it against him, and I believe I did win the game, but it, you know, wasn't necessarily because of that, but it was still like just you know, fun interactions like that. I like to find. I think that was definitely a runner up, but I gotta go with the one that John alluded to earlier in the episode here.
Poor email.
Where is after, you know, the Ephesian Widow, the Life in the Sun combo, after I'd, you know, stumbled across that, and I was able to make a deck that won on the very first turn of the game, with the cross. Of course, in the game against Emmanuel, I you know, ended up going second, and so I couldn't win on, you know, the very first turn of the game, but I think that helped enable me to be able to win on, you know, my first turn after he had gone. I'd gotten those extra cards, and that was actually, if I remember correctly, those extra cards are what I needed, because he did have, you know, one piece of interaction that would have otherwise stopped me. And so I was able to win on my first turn. And part of what made that video, or, you know, the content the most enjoyable for me, was not just the fact that I was able to pull off the combo, but that I was able to do it against someone that was like, you know, I try not to pick favorites, I guess, but yeah, Emmanuel and Jake, you're in there too, as like one of the you know, the people that I really enjoy playing against, because you're like, I'm playing against you and it feels like you're almost rooting for me, because you're like, this is awesome. Like, you know, I very positive attitude about it. Like you're almost having, you know,
as much fun as you
more
are.
fun than I am.
Until they play that one card that changes the momentum, and then they're like, yeah, good. They beat you 5-3.
Right, yeah, exactly. But no, so that was playing against Emmanuel. Like I don't think like if I had to pick my opponent, I would probably would have picked him anyway. Like I think it was for Wacky Grand Prix, if I remember correctly. So it was, randomly picked. But yeah, I probably would have picked him anyway, just because, not because I want to pick on him necessarily, but because I just know that he's a good sport, and he's not going to be, sitting there the whole time like, oh, are you done? Like, hurry up, or this is so dumb. This is a broken combo. Like, just complaining about it. But yeah, like John would have done.
I would have gone full on mad on you.
Exactly. So yeah, that would definitely be my favorite video I put out.
For me, my favorite piece of content isn't a video, surprisingly. It's an article on Land of Redemption called All the Deck Lists of Nationals 2024.
That was awesome.
And that content is my favorite, but it's also the hardest to do. Because first I had to get the deck list from Red Dragon Thorn, and then I had to put all of them into Lackey, and then I had to take screenshots of all of them, and then I had to upload them all to, and it was like something, but the end result was really worth it for me. Just having a place where people can go and look at this tournament and kind of look at their decks and add little write-ups to their decks if they want to. And then on top of that, I was able to go dig into the data and publish like a little dashboard that you can go and interact with and hover over and see what kind of the decks were popular and what their win percentages was and what the soul differential was. So it was like I wanted it to be such a unique present for Redemption, because Redemption hasn't really ever had something like that. And so I wanted to just do something special and unique and different. So I hope people appreciate that.
That article is so cool, and the ability, like, oh, this is the most played enhancement. This is the most played defense. This is defense fared well. Like that's so cool. The lost soul differential, all those things. I'm like, my mind was blown. Like, that's cool. Like, I actually tried to build a metagame breakdown, but I kind of just left it going there for the top 16 or something. And like, you really like hit it out of the park with that article. That thing was insane. I loved it.
Oh, I guess I'll check it out, man. No. Still haven't got to it yet, but I've been meaning to.
Jake, do you have anything you wanted to add for favorite piece of content that you've been a part of or that you've done?
Yeah, I mean,
it's okay
I really
if
like
it's a podcast
episode. Then
yeah, I liked my rules shorts. I like Interrupt the Battle, and I like turning into old, because I think that's a really easy way to. It's ongoing. It's last card played by opponent. It's defeating effects. I thought that was a really cool way, in my mind at least, to get Interrupt the Battle down as an actual mechanic. And I forgot the other one I did, but I thought they were both really useful videos. I think the other one was explaining interrupt, prevent, and negate, or that modifiers cannot be. But I thought those were really useful, and I kind of just wish more people saw them, but I think they were really cool little shorts on some important parts of the rules for Redemption. And also, I enjoyed my video with Tim. That was really cool to do that nativity video, so enjoyed that. Hey,
if you want to get more traction on those and get them into more people's, hands, so to speak, or virtual hands, maybe you should have them posted on Land of Redemption.
Oh,
I feel like you might know a guy that can help you there.
Well, I think I do. The guy I do the podcast with, he has a backdoor channel to get into the system. So.
Oh yeah, he has the he has the wormhole. Now I was going to do what Tim did, and that was kind of talk about like my favorite piece that I did, and also leading to the most challenging piece, because a lot of times the most challenging is always, it's not always, but sometimes it is the most rewarding, and there's usually a correlation between that. But my most enjoyed thing that I've done, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was an episode of the podcast early on, and this was back in the old warehouse building that we were in, and it was back when Brad was not co-host. He was just a random guy, came by to join every now and then on those early episodes. But it was called Hold the Confetti Cannons, and it was like, I don't know what the milestone was, but it was like the podcast has been around for a couple of months or something, like, or whatever it is, or this is episode 25. I don't remember what the milestone was, but he joked about, I thought about bringing confetti cannons, and I was like, dude, you shouldn't have said that, because now I'm disappointed you didn't bring them. And then we had this episode we talked about, I think that was the episode that had where he tried to break into my office with a Lowe's gift card that I had because I'd locked my keys in. And then we played that Carmen song, and I got hit with a copyright ban on YouTube.
That's awesome.
For it. And it was the first time I had like a copyright strike on YouTube. And I was like, what does this mean? But they were like, this is not a monetized video, so you are not in danger of whatever. And I was like, okay, great. So because I'm a bum and only have 13 followers, I'm good. But it flagged on the YouTube version. I don't know how they would flag things that you use on, like, that would get you into more hot water if, like, somebody did find it on a podcast and was like, hey. But anyway, I didn't make any money off of it, so I'm good. But I enjoyed that episode. So that would be, like, my second favorite thing that I've done. Not to knock any other episodes. It was just a lot of, like, it was just like cool, funny story after cool, funny story rolling. And it was good interaction with me and Brad.
It was episode 26, John.
Yes, episode 26. Okay.
26.
So I don't know what the exact milestone we were talking about celebrating was. It must have been like a time period thing.
It's half a year.
Yeah, half a year. Okay. That's probably what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But then for Mr. Classic weekend, the first one, when I did that promo video, that, you know, like I was like,
With the wrestling intros.
Yeah. Well, it was
Mr.
just
Classic.
what was it? Are you ready to see the best of the best versus the best of the best? And I stayed up for about 2 hours or so, just recording that over and over. And I remember my voice was gone for like 2 days after that, 2 or 3 days. But it corresponded also after it started to heal from doing that. I forget what it was. It was something else, not podcast related. I lost my voice. So I lost it for that. I lost it for something else. And then when I got it back a little bit later, I did the like 8 interviews or whatever. And I recorded with everyone and put all that. But that was my most challenging, is getting all that put together and trying to edit that the best I could. But I lost my voice doing all of those interviews. And by the time I did the last interviews, I couldn't talk. And it was like I spent the better part of a month losing my voice, getting it back, losing my voice, getting it back, losing it again. But that was challenging, but very rewarding too. I think it was really cool. I wish I had been able to do it for this year, but I wasn't able to pull it together. So I really enjoyed doing that. But as far as most challenging, do you, Jayden, have anything to that stands out as like, this was the hardest thing that I've done? Maybe losing to your brother or something on a video. I think you've done that a couple of times. You know,
it is getting harder, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily hard to lose my brother. It's something I've been doing most of my life here. So, I would say, like, I don't know that I have like any particular videos or pieces of content, I guess, that stick out as being like the most challenging. Like, if anything, it's just a few of them that the recording gets kind of messed up, or it's just a wacky game.
And that's the worst.
And
like when you record an episode and then you realize on playback that Jake's audio is
someone's
pretty
underwater.
It sounds like he's underwater.
Yeah,
I'm not throwing
crazy.
shade.
I'm just
being honest that like that really is a bummer when you sit down to edit something that you've recorded and something has happened to where you take that feeling of, all right, I just need to edit it and get it out, and then you lose that. It's like, golly, now I got to tell people we didn't get the episode in, or like make up some not like an excuse, but just a way to frame it and word it to where people aren't disappointed with you for not having a podcast. Maybe you don't feel this pressure because you get your stuff out on time, Jayden, but like when people's like, hey, it's been like 6 weeks, where's the podcast at? And I'm like, bro, I'm busy. And it's just like, then I'll get a DM be like, are you ever going to make a podcast again? I was like, calm down. I mean, apparently you can't take breaks and hiatuses. This community is really, they're really gun shy because people have done that in the past and then moved to Portland and never came back. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah. They're just bringing back. It's like, oh, another podcast. There it goes.
Yeah. Another one.
Yeah. No, it's, I think for me, the most challenging is just, I guess I mentioned before, like Wednesday nights, at least during the school year, I've got youth group. I've been doing that for the past couple of years now, and so getting home kind of late on Wednesdays and not really having much time before that in the week, at least like, between usually when I record the games and post them on Thursdays to get the editing done, and that kind of the Wednesday becomes that time. And so occasionally there, like if there were some particular challenges with the game or the recording or whatever, where, I really want to get it edited so that it's, clear and not too distracting, then I'll, be up later than I'd like to. I think the latest I've stayed up for video editing is around 3 a.m. So it's really not too bad.
That's
I feel
child's
like
play.
Yeah,
you never pulled the
all-nighter.
all-nighter.
Hendrix level of commitment here. So normally it's earlier than that, but it is still does make some of my Thursdays make me consider becoming a coffee drinker. But I've still been able to hold off on it.
I will say that when I was first doing the podcast and we were grinding out weekly ones, I would record. Sometimes Brad would join me. Sometimes I would have other guests, but I was routinely pulling all-nighters. So I would record on, what day were we releasing? Was that Monday? Or was it Tuesday?
I think it was either Mondays or Tuesdays.
Yeah, so I think it was Monday, and I would go Sunday night, record, stay up editing at the warehouse, and then sleep on the couch in my office for maybe like an hour or two, and get up and be working by like 9. And my guys showed up at 8, so I was always like asleep on the couch. I think one time they tried to draw on my face with a pen, and yeah, all the things that could happen there. I don't know if it's a bad look. Like, as a manager, it probably is a bad look that you're groggy and sleeping on the couch. It looks like your wife kicked you out. But then when you find out it's really just because I have an insane level of dedication that I wanted to make sure that I was at work on time, so I came early and went to sleep. I tried to position it that way, but...
Which may lead to your wife eventually being upset, but not.
Yeah, but definitely editing some of those episodes, it was not safe for me to drive back home after trying to edit, and I was not set up. That was before I had my own computer at home. Like, I had my wife's computer or access to her laptop, but I didn't want to necessarily take over it and use it for editing. And then the advent of the closet studio at home has been great for not having to drive sleepy either way, because I do tend to stay up way too late for doing things. But anyway, Rob, do you have something that was extra challenging that kind of sticks out for you?
Yeah. So I think one of the technical issues I had with one of my videos, it was the Chris crashes the party on RobM Studios, and it was a video where I didn't even know what was happening. And all of a sudden, I'm opening this package from Chris Fashman, and he's like, hey, let's do this recording. And, it's the playtest sheets for Israel's deliverance. And the issue was when I recorded it on Zoom, it mirrored all the images. And so, I was, perplexed at the time. What am I going to do? How am I going to make this an editable video to post? Because everything's backwards. So if people want to pause the screen and be like, oh, what's that card? They're not going to be able to read it. So I think, Jayden, I reached out to you and you helped me. It could be a mistake, but I feel like you helped me figure out how to flip everything and get it working.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is your most challenging video was one of the simplest videos for Jayden to help fix.
Pretty much, right?
Well, it's because I had been doing some of those Zoom tournaments and live streaming them and realizing, wait a minute, all my cards are flipped horizontally just because of the way that Zoom mirrors by default.
Mm-hmm. Aside from that, I think some of the more challenging ones are just, anything that's going to involve a lot of editing, like some of the spoiler videos I did for Gospel of Christ, where I would just spend hours going back through in Spoilers channel on Discord and just grabbing all the images and then taking the time to put them into the editing software, and then just the sheer amount of time it takes to be okay, let's record, we're going to talk about this image, we're going to talk about that, just the time consumingness of it. Aside from that, everything's been, unless it's something that I didn't end up finishing, maybe that's the most challenging, but Yeah.
So, just an update, because this is after Monday Night Football has ended. The Jets lost, so Tyler could have joined us and he wouldn't have seen Aaron Rodgers throw a last-minute interception that cost them the game when they had a chance to win it. I'm just saying, don't put all your eggs in a 42-year-old basket.
Is that 2 weeks in a row that he did that now?
I feel like it might be.
I was kind of looking forward to dogging on Tyler a little bit with that. My Vikings taking him down in London, but
Yeah, but don't get high on your Vikings. Sam Darnold's still the quarterback. I mean, the wheels are going to fall off at some point.
nah.
Sam Darnold. That's funny. He's got good stats for fantasy.
He does. That's why I'm scared. Like, it's working too well. I will say that the Vikings have one of the best young coaches in the league, and I think that's evident from the fact that he's had like 3 different quarterbacks the last 2 years play at least well enough to have them competitive in games. But to get off the sidetrack, how do you guys balance your enjoyment of the game with your ability to create content? I know that sometimes that might go hand in hand for you guys since you're able to incorporate so much of the actual games that you play into your content. So that might help you with the balance of that. But how does that look for you guys?
I can speak to this. Something that's been really helpful for me is, as a content creator, that bundle of being that content creator automatically makes you a content editor too. And the content editing part is actually one of the most tedious and frustrating and least fun parts about being a content creator. So just finding different ways to optimize that workflow and make it from being able to create an idea and then display something that you'd actually want to watch to people, finding a way to do that in the most like stress-free way. And so a couple of superpowers that I've discovered, super softwares, I should say. One of them is OBS. It's a beautiful software that you can record anything on happening on your computer. And it's really easy, intuitive. Another one is Reaper Audio, because I would want to go back to my videos and cut out the dead space, and I would like manually find the dead space and cut it out and copy and snip it and that. But I found a program that automatically does that. You set a couple of parameters and you run your entire video clip through that, and it shrinks my video sizes from like an hour to maybe like 45 minutes.
You hear that, Jayden?
And
I'm just messing with you.
It's really cool, Jayden. I don't know. Maybe I'll send it to you, Jayden, after the. I don't know.
I feel called out.
So like just doing stuff like that. Oh, and the last tip was like if I wanted to do a voiceover of a video and have the card images go up while I'm talking about them, Rob, like you said, it is really hard to go and find all the card images, download them, and put them in your editing software. But if I just have Lackey open in a window and type in the name of the card while I'm talking about the card, and kind of it's like a really bootleg way of doing that, but it saves me so much time. It's like obviously it's not going to be as good as like all that time spent editing and putting it there, but for me it's just really worth it to make that small compromise in quality to make it so much easier on me. Those are a couple of ways how I make it easier for me to produce content and still enjoy the game.
Yeah, for sure. I think similarly for me, the actual like creation part of the content creation, doing the recording and the deck building and stuff, like that's all just something I would be doing anyway. And so that's really the thing that I enjoy about the game, plus pushing this button to record it. So I would say that that's the motivation for me to go through those kind of extra editing steps. And I definitely as we've I'll fully acknowledge I don't go through quite as much editing as like Tim will do for some of his videos, like cutting it really down to the bare bones. But I have found a few like tools and stuff to kind of simplify my process as well, like using DaVinci Resolve has made life a lot easier than I think I started out with something called like VSDC video editor or something like that. It was just like some free editing software that made it very difficult to do the edits that I wanted to do. But it served my needs for a while of just really I'm just cutting and splicing videos. But especially when it came to doing like games with physical cards and recording those and putting in the the card images and stuff, like having a different or kind of newer software for that. And DaVinci Resolve does have a very good free version, and so that's what I use if anyone is interested in looking for something. But it's basically like Adobe Premiere Pro without some of the extra image editing features and stuff that I don't really use anyway. So that definitely has made the process a bit easier for me. And I think that unless anything gets particularly more difficult, I won't have any trouble balancing the enjoyment of the game and putting in that little bit of effort to make the videos somewhat more accessible. But also, I guess part of the balance is that I don't, or I intentionally don't put in quite as much effort to make the video kind of, seamless or, flawless, because I know my limitations. Pulling all-nighters isn't my cup of tea.
It's not mine either, trust me. I've given that ghost up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, like I was gonna say work-life balance. That's, wow, brain fart. For me, like, I think the balance between like the enjoyment of the game and family time and finding the time to, get into content creating. A lot of what I did last spring was live streams. Like I went to Moravia, New York, and recorded January, February, March, April, like 4 months worth of live streams, and, tried to do some gameplay content in between there. But like when you have a wife and kids, it's a challenge to keep the grind going with the content creating. So like for me, it's like when I'm able to like incorporate, it into family time, like with my son, I was able to do a lot of gameplay recording with him this past spring. But I think a lot of what I want to do in the future is like, okay, some more like condensed content, like the top 5 and 5, maybe just some shorter videos like about what is redemption, maybe do some videos about the Bible verses on the card, and maybe just like incorporate that into like my walk with Christ. So just trying ways to keep myself involved in redemption while not burning out. So yeah.
I think that, and I guess Jake can follow up and chime in on this, since he's kind of gotten to see it now from making his videos with gameplay and then what like the podcast is, because I think the podcast is different from the content that you guys create. Not that it's better or it's less or anything. It's just different. But I talked about the benefit of what I thought the podcast offered was being able to interact with the game without the cards. Well, creating the podcast comes with creating the podcast without the cards. So a lot of my time for the hobby of redemption is invested in a way that I don't necessarily always have the ability to play with the cards as much as other people, because a lot of my time is dedicated to podcast stuff that requires me to be focused on things besides just the cards. Like, yes, I need to, make sure that I'm staying up to date with, trends and things. And I think I do a pretty good job of that, being involved in where the common decks are and things, especially as it's become more accessible. I'm able to do that. But my content creation is separate from the game itself, in a way that a lot of like gameplay videos and things about like certain decks aren't necessarily that way. And then when you add in the editing to have we've been putting out nearly 3-hour episodes, which I like doing that. If we're going to be bi-weekly, I like giving 3 hours. Some people might find that daunting, but I feel like that gives the potential for somebody to listen to it 3-4 times on a car ride to and from work or whatever, if they want to take it in that way or record it all at once. But I think realizing how much investment it was going to take early on, learning that and figuring that out and how to adjust that with actually playing the game. You can go back on the history of the podcast and you can hear how many times like me and Brad talked about, well, I haven't played the game, I haven't done anything with cards. And a lot of that is because the podcast takes you away from being able to do that. So just finding a way to be able to do the podcast. And then when we were recording well and doing it bi-weekly versus trying to force that weekly that I was doing when I first started, kind of creates the option to, have that off week be able to fit in a game or two and things like that to keep up with it. But I think it was a little bit of a adjustment period when I first started doing it, and I realized how much it actually took my redemption time and took it away from the actual game of redemption. As far as I spent 5-6 hours on recording this episode and editing it, and then that's 5-6 hours of time that I would have spent on redemption playing with the cards. That's now not that, so it just kind of erodes away a little bit, and you have to be really intentional about picking up on Discord and like keeping up with decks and things, and I guess card strategies that are becoming, heavily discussed and then implemented in decks and things. So I think that I won't say that it's great to balance it off. So it does. And I think, and I don't want to say that that's the reason that like John had his podcast and they didn't work out that as far as long term, but we also see it with Chamber of Angels. And at some point, like, when are we going to go from we went to Portland to we went to the Chamber of Angels? Like, that joke's got to write itself, right?
And throwing shade over here.
Yes, throwing massive shade. But I feel like that's a little bit of one of those things to where I don't think people realize until they get into it, because I didn't realize that. So it'd be interested to hear how Jake feels about balancing redemption time. Obviously, you did it well enough to still come in second at Nationals, so kudos to you. But
well, and that's kind of what I wanted to just chime in quick before Jake. But one thing that I have noticed about the podcast is like you now bringing Jake on, you're kind of bringing on someone who has had the time to play, and even if he's not doing as much of the editing part of it, like he's kind of I think compensating in a way by he had been able to get those games in and stuff and bring that kind of the he's in the field, so to speak, doing research, maybe a little more available to do that than you are. So I found that as a good complimentary thing.
He's bringing credibility to the podcast, is what you're saying.
I wasn't going to put it that way, but
he's legitimizing the podcast.
yeah, take it away, Jake.
Yeah, hopefully my microphone didn't change when it reset. Hopefully it's okay right now. But anyways, it's a huge blessing that I don't have to deal with the editing. It's always, and that's so much off my back. Like, I just get to come and talk about redemption, and that's just something fun to do. It does require effort. It does require time. Like, I need to coordinate with my wife. Like, do you think we can get some time? I think I have some time Monday night to do some podcasting, and it's important to get you got to manage my time, and I got to get better at it with more responsibilities coming on in life. It's definitely one of those Ecclesiastes things where you're there's a time to reap, there's a time to sow. Like, plan your time out, manage your time well, so you get to do these fun things, but that don't let the vitals, your responsibilities go by the wayside. Your relationship with the Lord, that has to be foremost. So definitely something I'm trying to get better at, trying to get strengthened. Also, sometimes it's just good to take a break. Like, in this time after Nationals, kind of just been on a bit of a break from redemption. Like, life's been busy, so just been on a bit of a break, playing some games on phones instead, and just letting myself kind of reset there. And I guess that goes into one of the other questions about avoiding burnout. But just balancing time, it's not easy, but you just make an effort at it, and you get better at it as you keep on learning and growing in wisdom and how to balance games and life and other things, I think. So hopefully that explains my side pretty well.
One strategy I've found helpful is being single. So that's that helps.
Single and ready to redemption mingle.
Yeah.
Remember, you can pick up your YTG singles on
Yeah.
YTG.
Oh, there you go, dropping it.
Nice. Oh man. But if my content ever drops off dramatically, then you might have to start asking questions.
Yeah, you'll disappear like Josh did.
That's awesome.
So as far as it goes with time allotment and things, have you guys ever dealt with burnout as far as the content creation goes? And if so, how did you push through that? What brought you back on the other side of that? Because clearly you guys are still engaged with the game on the content creation side. So Tim, you want to go ahead and take that one away?
Yeah, kind of where I started really fast. I started basically super ambitious, had this really ambitious goal of making one video a day. And it was insane. And it was something I could do because I was single at the time and I was unemployed, and I was like really looking for an outlet of something to do with all this energy that I felt. And redemption kind of fit that perfectly. It was something that had so many things to think about as far as just keeping you up at night and thinking about different questions. But yeah, after a couple months of that, it's just like, this isn't sustainable. What's something that would be healthier? What's something that would be more natural? So it was a good idea to take a step back from that artificial goal that I'd set and just ask myself, like, what's sustainable, and kind of really go back to thinking about why I'm doing this and try to play more for the long term as opposed to like if you're running a marathon, you don't want to like go right off the gates like sprinting all the way. You got to figure out a strategy for you that's going to work over the course of months and years and that.
Well, if it comes to running a marathon for me, I'm just gonna sit it out. If that's the way I roll.
Yeah. So just taking the pressure off myself to like have some arbitrary number of like subscribers or videos per day or per week or whatever, and just kind of more embracing like, hey, this is life, and sometimes it's good to just enjoy the week and not worry about uploading a video this week or whatever. So that's been a little bit of my journey with burnout so far.
What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if I've ever been burnt out per se, but like, I definitely know I've had to take breaks where, like, just with different seasons of life, needing to step away from the weekly content. I know it's been a few weeks since I've released a few videos, and then, you know, probably nothing since nationals before that. So like, just trying to like pace myself. I think kind of similar to what Tim was saying. Like, he started off with one video a week or a day. I started off with about 3 videos a week, but you know, RobM Studios isn't just redemption. So like, I was, you know, spreading my content out among different platforms. So just remember to take time to take breaks is, I think, what keeps me motivated to get back into it. And hopefully I can find myself to where I can get to a more regular schedule again. Cause it's just a season of life right now where it's just like, I feel like I have no time to just sit down, stay up late one night and crank out some content. Cause man, I'm just exhausted lately. Babies are keep you busy.
That'll do it.
I feel like we've been kind of hit or miss on advertising to, you know, people who are interested in potentially making content, you know, like trying to get people into it. Like, yeah, make content. It's fun.
Yeah, it's so like, fun, but then like your whole life falls apart.
Oh, but it is so fun. It is.
Yeah. There's definitely you know, rewarding aspects to it, but you do have to, I think, make sure that you are biting off only as much as you can chew. I don't know if I would say I've ever gotten burnt out. Like, I just, like, there are definitely weeks where I'm like, oh, I don't know, sorry guys, we're not gonna have a video this week. Not necessarily because I'm, you know, feeling redemptioned out, but just because I'm not gonna have the time to you know, put something together, or just got, you know, other things going on, or I'll just have to, you know, have kind of pull something out of the archive, so to speak, like I did with the play test games a few weeks ago, where I was just like, oh, I had these recorded, I'm just gonna post them live, and it was, you know, very, you know, quick thing that I could do and put together while I was traveling for work. And so I don't think I've been burnt out, but I do, you know, try to, I don't know, hedge that a little bit with like times or you know, occasionally times where I'll intentionally, you know, take a break for a few weeks. Usually it's after nationals. You know, this past year, or this past nationals, I think I posted a box opening video the week afterwards, and then I think it was like 5 or 6 weeks or something that I, you know, hadn't put up until I put up the next video, and that was great, just to have my, you know, Wednesday nights back a little bit, and some of my other, you know, days of, you know, putting content together. And I did spend some time you know, working on the Israel's Inheritance update for Lackey and all that stuff. So I wasn't completely free of redemption, but I definitely wasn't looking through the set and all that as much as I maybe would have been otherwise if I was kind of more actively trying to make decks and content and all that.
What about you, Jake? Have you experienced any burnout with the game?
I think I have, and just like, especially I think around like at the end of Nats, you're kind of like just naturally like, that was a lot of redemption, good redemption like content, but like, okay, like let's take a break now. Let's play some other games. Let's enjoy some time off from it and let things kind of come back into with a fresh look at the game. I'm a like I don't know, I feel like a lot of us are a person that gets really obsessed with ideas and stuff. So like my mind can really like latch on to redemption really hard sometimes. So I just enjoyed like seasons of there's going to be a little bit less redemption this season and maybe move into a little bit more. I remember last year right before Nationals I was into a season of camp and mission trip and all those things, so like redemption was not really even if I wanted to, I couldn't have it as a main thought in those times. So I was kind of forced into a different mindset there, not necessarily burnout, but just like I couldn't be as involved as I wanted to be. So it's just good to have these ebbs and flows in life and not to fight it, and just, at least for me, that's a good little I don't know how to explain it, but that's a good way to have it move in my life.
So it sounds like you are valuing being willing to take time away from the game as needed, as life dictates, with camp and things keeping you away from being able to focus on it. It's almost like that in itself is letting you hedge against burnout, because it's forcing you to change your focus, and keeping priorities in line, for the most part, should be able to help you do that. But then there are times to where, like, especially in the competitive season, it feels like you're driving so hard for that, and then you're also trying to create content on the side with how you interact with this hobby. But all of that can kind of back up on you. Now, I have absolutely burned out probably a couple of different times. I think a lot of that coincides with I want to put out the best product that I can. And then anytime I think that I don't have the time to dedicate to putting out the best episode and then the best editing process to make sure that I'm getting the, something I can be proud of put out. If I can't be proud of it, I don't want to do it. And that's just the way I'm wired. Like, I don't want to sound self-absorbed or to think that I'm better than anyone else, but my goal is every time I press publish on an episode of the podcast that it's an episode that somebody feels like it's potentially the best episode we've had. And I know that that's not always the case, and I can acknowledge that, but I don't want my effort into editing and recording it to ever have, made it to where it's not potentially that, that next best episode when we put it out. And I don't want to talk about the other people that have attempted podcast or that have podcasts that maybe are just dormant now and are going to put other episodes out. I know that we like to joke and things, but absolutely when I hit, publish on an episode, I want this podcast to absolutely be the best podcast it can be. And obviously there's not a lot of competition with Redemption, but I want this to be like an ambassador almost. So if someone comes in contact with a podcast that doesn't know the game and the community, that it's the absolute best representation of Redemption that it can be. And that's a lot of pressure to put on. And I think that, again, making all of the recent changes that we did this past year, when we changed co-host and making it segmented, having the more professional sounding intro, the voiceover, segment transitions, things like that, all work towards that. But there was a time back when we weren't doing all of those things that the podcast itself, it felt like it took a lot more effort to make it something that was like top shelf sounding. I felt like sometimes I was not as good editing. I was like, man, last time I edited, it sounded so much better. I haven't changed any settings, but why does it not sound as good? Just being really critical and wanting it to be great. And that can really help lead to burnout. And I think that because it makes you feel like when you're putting it out that maybe it's not good enough. And so there has definitely been times to where I felt like I was putting something out that I didn't feel was as good as I wanted to feel about it. But then the biggest thing as far as like an experience with burnout was when, and I wrote an article after this period to try to explain why we hadn't been recording episodes, but we had introduced and let that family come move in and live with us when they, the place they were renting got struck by lightning and they couldn't find anywhere else. So they stayed with us. And so I lost my little game room that I have here where I've set up my recording stuff at home. That turned into a bedroom for guests. We were constantly having, we do dinner with them every night. It was like I didn't have any place to really retract, and then work got really busy, so I couldn't go hang out at the warehouse. And at the time I was recording there, I couldn't go there and it be relaxing. It was just going back to stress because of work. And then I come home and it was stress, and I had nowhere to. I was like, what is the pinball, to where I was just like boom, 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 stress on all sides. And then on top of it, the way that I was, interacting with the game was based on doing the podcast, and I couldn't do that. And I was just like, man, I hate it here. And so that's when, after they got settled in to a new place after staying with us about 6 months. It's a single mother and two kids, Keegan's age, living in the house. It can be a lot, and it's a small house. It's not a very big house. So I definitely burned out around that time, but it was because there was no way I could dedicate all of what I thought I needed to do to put out a good quality episode. I couldn't put in the thought and the time. I couldn't make the nice outline. I couldn't do enough to feel like when I pressed publish on an episode, it was going to be good enough. And so I think that led to potentially me having a feeling of it not being good enough that maybe necessarily wasn't all that true, but it's just the way I felt, and it led to that. But thankfully, I found ways to, nobody's ever complained. It was like, hey, I listened to the podcast. You guys talked about some great stuff, but dude, your editing sucks. They've never been like that. And maybe people have thought that and they felt that way, but no one's ever said it. I think I just put a lot more pressure on myself. And so I've started to try to relax and just take it in stride. And as long as I put it out there and at least one person says, hey, I enjoyed the episode, and I get that all the time from people, I'm making myself be more aware that that's okay. Like, it doesn't have to always be the best episode we've ever done every time I hit publish. So taking some of that pressure off myself. And I think balancing your own expectations with your content. And that's like, I forget who said it, but someone was talking, I think it was you, Jake, talking about you edited this and you put it out and you got 3 likes on it. So you're judging based on like the way it's received and things versus finding enjoyment in creating the content versus, how it's received. So I definitely think that that's something that people should balance, is where it fits in with their time and schedule, but also make sure you balance expectations. And it's not always something that you have to put that much pressure on yourself for. So finding the balance there, I think, is important.
Yeah, I guess one thing that I might just add on to that, maybe almost summarize, I guess, is like, I guess.
Are you saying I'm long-winded?
What?
That's fair. Go ahead.
It's kind of just like knowing yourself as far as like, your limitations, where your boundaries are. And I think, just kind of being able to remind yourself or kind of recognize, okay, these are things that, I'm not, or I guess these are signs, I guess, that, maybe I need to dial it back a little bit or take a little break, where, it's going to look different for each person. But, Jake brought up like, is my relationship with God kind of, falling to the wayside because I want to squeeze this in? Or, if you're, for you guys, if your spouse is like, hey, you're not spending as much time with family or whatnot, you're kind of making sure that once you hear those things that you're not like, okay, I need to, I can push that to the side, and then just kind of let that be a sign of like, there's something that needs to give here, and this is at the end of the day, this is a hobby. I love it. It's part of who I am or what I do, but it's not the most important part.
Amen.
So I think for me, one of those lines is like when I start having, like for some people, it's the dream of like, you didn't study for the test and you're there, taking the test or whatever in school, or you're giving a presentation and you realize you're not wearing pants. For me, those dreams were like, I get to the tournament and I don't have my deck ready. Like I forgot to build my deck, or I forgot it, or I left it at home or something. And so once I start having those dreams, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm spending a little too much time on redemption stuff, and gotta dial it back a bit. But so I think you can safeguard yourself pretty well, as long as you're kind of recognizing, okay, where are my limitations, and for my personality, I'm okay with putting out some subpar content, so I'm a little bit different than John in that way, and I think that helps. But I think kind of knowing your, what your expectations are for yourself, kind of is what, as John was getting at, is definitely important.
That's good.
So when you said you're taking the test and you realize you have no pants on, or whatever, or I'm sorry, giving a speech, whatever.
You don't need pants to take a test.
Yeah,
how many of us thought about just the age test? Thought about the scene in Avatar, The Last Airbender? None of us.
I'm trying to think of what the
He's like
was.
about to fight the Fire King or whatever, and he's having that dream where he has no pants on.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not my.
Nope.
This
I
is
didn't
not
think
my
about
career.
that, but now I know.
I've seen it, but
Okay,
only once, and it was a while ago.
that's fair. So I guess the last thing we'll finish up with here is, obviously, we started off with few active content creators, and we've moved forward and we've had more content creators join and people that make videos here and there. And again, this was not an all-inclusive group of people here. Tyler didn't join us because he'd rather watch the Bills beat the Jets, yes, as we mentioned. But we also, Tim was on, he's dropped off now, but there's at least a handful more people that actually put out some kind of content, whether that be, devotionals built around the game, whether that be videos, even some people that do long form writing articles, or like Chad, I would say, is a content creator, not just because he had Land of Redemption, but because he was generating and he was the driving force behind some of the long form deck lists, where you kind of pretty much gives an in-depth overview of the deck and things and reason for changes and things, and very thorough. So there's different pockets of content that we have within Redemption. So this is not all inclusive, but we always are willing to help out and see other people. I don't think there's been any type of like jealousy among people that are creating content. It seems to be a welcoming community, sub-community within our bigger community, content creator. So if someone approached you and asked, what advice would you give me? I'm starting out. I want to make redemption content, whether that be videos, articles, anything. What would be advice that you would give to them?
Just start making it. Just do it. Just try it out. See, if it's something that you enjoy doing. Find what about redemption or about that content is exciting to you. Is it about playing games? Is it about talking strategy? Is it about, putting out certain deck lists? Like, what do you enjoy about redemption, and share that with the community? Yeah, just give it a go. Like, we're always happy to see more content and more creators out there. And I think it's great to see that we have had more in recent years. And yeah, just get out there, record it, try it out, see if it's for you, and props to you if it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that for sure. One of the things that is, I guess not necessarily unique to the redemption community, but unique, at least in like compared to bigger card games and stuff like, Magic the Gathering, you go on YouTube or whatever, and there's just so many different, content creators, different formats and everything that you could, it's impossible to digest all of it. And, maybe redemption will get to that point someday. That's, kind of a
For some of us, it's already there. We can't get the videos all in.
Well, I'm saying you couldn't do it even if you tried. So, so maybe redemption will get there at some point. But I think that if you're worried about like, okay, are people even going to, be interested in what I do? Read the article I write or watch the video I record, I'm going to say confidently that the answer is going to be yes. Like, there are enough people in the redemption community that are just kind of hungry for content that they'll read through an article or watch a video. And even if it isn't like, super high quality or in depth, the other nice part about the redemption community is that they're not going to just leave a comment on it and be like, oh, trash video. Like, or, well, maybe, okay, maybe John will, but you can ignore him.
Those are usually DMs sent.
But I think the majority of things that you're going to get is like comments like, oh, hey, that was a great video. Here's a little piece of criticism, kind of constructive criticism that I would offer, something maybe for you to consider, whether it be from a technical standpoint of like, hey, I noticed you were using this microphone or something, like it didn't really sound that great. Maybe try using some headphones, or something that from us content creators or people who have experience with recording and all that, to or kind of range from that to like actual redemption related stuff. Would be like, hey, you didn't quite explain this the right way, but I think that I like this form of video, and I'd encourage you to keep trying to do that and all that. So it's not I guess I would say it's a welcoming environment, and I'm glad that the redemption is that way. So I think just try it is something like Rob said that I would echo. And I think along with that, if you're like, oh, I want to make something, but you're not really sure what or what form, something like a podcast or even a YouTube channel can be a little bit daunting, or it's kind of a commitment getting it all set up, picking a name or profile picture or whatever. Like you don't have to get all of that set up right away, but also you don't even have to go quite that far. Land of Redemption has the capability of hosting videos. You could just write an article to start out, and then kind of see how you feel from there. If maybe later on you want to make a video recording yourself just reading that article out loud, that's another form of content. So I think that kind of finding whatever your interest is, or kind of your niche for redemption could definitely serve you well, I guess, as far as find what that is, explore how you can do it well, and also reach out to people like John and Rob and I, Tim, Tyler. We all have been doing this for a little while, have some experience, and if you're looking for ideas of what kind of content you can create, we'd be happy to help you out. I mean, I think I can speak for all of us in saying that.
Like I say, yeah, Rob and Jayden had good points there. Just to reiterate, consistency and intentionality, and you got to be consistent for people to actually be checking back in on you on content. So there's that. And if I could switch off real quick and say, for the community, if you want more content creators, be willing to give them good critique and like helpful critique and harsh critique. Like not harsh in a mean way, but like say, hey, actually this might be something that you could change that could grow you. But like just don't just like watch a video and say that was awesome, but don't tell them like smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, like let them know that you care. Like there's this guy in the this guy in the community, Liam, and he tells me that he really appreciates the podcast. That means a lot to me, like that people actually care about what we're doing, and it means a lot when people comment, when people share, etc. So like, if you want to see more content creators, help them out. Like give them some feedback, let them know what they're doing right, let them know what they're doing wrong, so that they can produce for you. Like it's a two-way street too. So like, just one thing I'd add there.
I'll chime in just a little bit on that one point you mentioned about consistency. Consistency means sticking to something. Don't set something that's unrealistic, like a video a day. It was an unrealistic goal that Tim mentioned, but make sure you can be consistent and set a realistic goal. But another thing that I would say, I just want to go ahead and set the parameter here before I say this, that I will always strive for the Threshing Floor to be the premier top podcast that Redemption ever has. I will not stop striving for being the absolute best. I will put resources in to be the best. With that said, don't feel like you can't put out a podcast. Just there's a
Hey, Rob, you want to start a podcast?
I'm trying.
Just realize it'll be worse than us.
No, I'm trying to say, like, you shouldn't compare yourself to. I don't want to cut off an entire market of podcast because I'm striving to be the best. You can also strive to be the best, and maybe you will pass me, but I'm not going to stop striving for that as my goal for this game, is to present in the best possible format for the game. So I think what is that? Comparison is the thief of joy. Do not think that you have to, when you put out your first podcast episode, you should be on par with me and what Jake's doing here with the podcast. Because again, I've spent way too much money on resources and things that I should not have ever done, but I'm already down this road too far to turn back. So I will always be striving for that. But that should be secondary. If you have something you want to talk about and you want to do a podcast, do that. I'll be the first one to click listen on it. There hasn't been a lot of episodes for Chamber of Angels, but I've listened to every single one of them. I've listened to at least 2 of them twice. I've listened to every Thoughts from Portland. Heck, I even edited like one of their like 3 episodes. So like I am supportive of that. I have gone back and listened to multiple times the Top Cut Savvy. Like I will be the first one to support somebody doing that. And if you have questions, ask. James has reached out with asking questions about podcast and editing and things, and I've always been open and willing to help. So don't compare yourself and feel like you have to be on par with people that are already established. So, like Jayden said, he's okay with putting out subpar content is what you said, but still, like, your videos might feel like you do it from a different way that. So you have all of this experience with Redemption and you have all of this history with the game, and you can put that in when you talk about decks and things, and you have credibility as a deck builder that somebody else, when they put a video, if they're comparing to you, not only do they have to compare with the output of your video, like what your video looks like, sounds like, now they're having to compare with, you've been around this game for years, decades even, possibly. I don't know how far back. I don't know if it touches 2 decades, but there's a good chance it does. So don't necessarily compare yourself to the established people, but be willing to start. And, like Rob said, just start, but be willing to start and realize that you're not going to bridge that gap, and it's okay. People will still listen to your content. They will still watch your content. They will read your content. This community is very supportive in that way. But the other thing I would say is, when you decide that you're going to be a content creator or whatever, don't feel like you have to be super unique either. Like so Jayden's got the long form deck building. Here's the deck, and now I'm going to show you a game playing that. And then Tim's got the short version of that covered. Here's the deck. And then in a different video, here's the gameplay. We can almost touch kind of the majority of different ways to convey this content. Don't feel like you have to have something that's super unique. If you want to use Lackey and make a deck and then play that deck and put it all in one video like Jayden does, do it. I think we mentioned earlier that sometimes you don't get the retention and things on videos like that because of how long they tend to be and things. So maybe breaking it up is a better overall method for most people, but you shouldn't have to compare with that. A box opening video, you shouldn't have to feel like you can't do that because Rob's got that on his channel. You shouldn't feel like you can't start a podcast because there's already one. You don't have to be super unique in what you're doing. Obviously, it'd be really weird if we clicked on your podcast and you were talking about content creating and you had a guest on talking about what would you do if you were creating content, because that's literally exactly what we're doing here. But more power to you if you want to do that. But don't feel like you have to have some unique idea to bring to the table, and then it has to be top notch on production quality and all of that out of the gate. Just start somewhere, set you a consistent goal. One of the videos recently that came out, Micah put out that he wants to be the GOAT of Redemption. Now, granted, that is a tall hill to climb, but we've seen that it can be done even in a short amount of time with Tim taking and applying. It's really what you put in is what you're going to get out. So the more you put in, the better you're going to perform, and you're going to get that out. But setting a goal of, hey, this is what I want to do, and it's a long-term goal, and then he has something to work for. Now, I'm not saying everyone should go out there and say, I want to be the best player that's ever been in Type 1 and win 3 nationals. Maybe that's not the goal for everyone, but whatever your goal is, set it, and then even share it with people so that you can feel like there's a accountability that you have to hold yourself to work towards that goal. If you're the type of person that likes to do that, or to have people hold you accountable, just share a video and say, this is what I want my content to be moving forward. And then just get started, be consistent with it, but don't compare yourself to where you feel like you can't bring anything unique to the table as far as like your own take and perspective. Not that your content necessarily has to be unique. You want to just make a video that's similar to something that's already out there. Just do it. It's okay. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I don't want to make this the most challenging piece of content that Rob's ever created. So I suppose, I won't take too long to add to that. But I just want to say, if anyone is looking for like something to do, or like some content, like you're not really sure like what you would record, or if you're not sure, like, oh, I don't know if people would be interested in seeing my games and all that kind of stuff, record a box opening. Like those are, I think they're very easy. If you can just, find some books or whatever to set your phone up on and prop it up.
Don't even have to edit them, to be honest. Just
you don't have to edit it. You can just do it live if you want to. And people will watch it, like, for sure. Like, people love that stuff. So I don't do a whole lot of them on my channel, but Rob does a good job with his box opening videos, and I do have a couple boxes sitting in front of me that I'm kind of saving for a rainy day if I need one of those easy.
Just send one to me, Jayden.
Matter of fact, they're calling for rain tomorrow, big dog. I'll get you a next day air label. But yeah, that's all good advice. And I think just the overwhelming thing with this, even though we went through like some of the challenges with content creating, balancing things, protecting against burnout, things like that. So there are things to make sure that you're aware of before you get into it. I'm hoping that this can give an overview for some people that might be interested, but haven't really dipped their toes in yet. But I hope the overwhelming takeaway from this is that this is a positive group of people that create content for the game that will reaffirm you if you are looking for, advice and you want to know how to do something. Like, for example, I asked Tim, and he's dropped off, so I can't have him comment on it, but I asked him how he did the monkey and made the mouth move on his videos one time. He made an entire video. It was like 20 minutes, sent it to me, didn't even publish it. It's just directly to me. And he's telling me all the programs he uses to make his monkey do whatever he wants him to do. And like how he builds his entire videos and everything. And it's all there. And I was like, hey, I just meant, I guess I didn't specify to him that I just meant the monkey part. I was like, I really just meant, how did you make the monkey like laugh and jump up and down? And he was like, oh, I went a little overboard. So yeah.
That's about right.
And this was early on, like early Tim. Like I didn't even know his name. I assumed BaboonyTim, but I didn't know anything else about him. This was before he went to big tournaments or whatever. So, and I feel like that kind of attitude, maybe not to that extent as far as like, we're going to cut a video for you individually, but I feel like we would provide positive advice. So if you're interested in it, just get your feet wet so that you can see if it's something that you enjoy. And if it is, it's just a fun new way for you to interact with this game and this hobby. So I do appreciate you guys. I'm looking at the three of you that have held on this long, and you guys are all troopers, because I said an hour and a half and we went way over that. And I know it's going to be a while before I can ask for any more recording favors, but you helped me break out the hiatus. Hey, we are back. We recorded something. Now we just need to edit it. I'm going to send it to RobM so he can edit it for me. But I do appreciate you guys sticking around. And I know this is a conversation I've wanted to edit. I've wanted to record for quite a while. We were planning to do it last week, and my dog ended up having to go to the overnight vet, emergency care. They ended up having to, they did x-rays, and then they put him on fluids and kept him overnight because he had gotten into a rotisserie chicken that got left out after we cooked on the counter, and they were afraid the bone had lodged in his intestines. But thankfully he's okay. But that happened. There was something else before trying to get this scheduled. We finally got it recorded, so now it's just up to me editing it. So if you don't see this in the next week, I guess you won't know until after this records if I leave this part in, but I'm sorry. As rusty as I am on the recording, the editing is going to be just as rusty, so I don't know how long that will take. But definitely thank you guys for joining, and I'm glad we have some content to put out.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
It's been good.
That was a good night. Thank you all.
Yep. Go and spend money at Your Turn Games. We have not done a good job advertising him for the last several weeks and months. So
You got some mentions in there.
got
got
the
some mentions
singles
in
thing in
this,
there.
but this is the first thing he's got a mention of since Nationals. So, right after Nationals. So, go and spend money with Andy over at Your Turn Games, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
See you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Threshing Floor Podcast. Help us grow our community by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, be sure to subscribe or follow so you don't miss the next episode. And we'll talk to you next time on the Threshing Floor Podcast.